Right. Hello and welcome along to our Analytics Half an Hour. This afternoon we're going to tackle goal funnels and flows in Google Analytics, the difference between the two, and I want to show you some real examples in order that you get a picture as to where, once you've got goals in place, you get some really valuable reports out of analytics, and why, if you do this, you'll move ahead of the people who just don't bother. Okay, now before we get started, let me welcome you and introduce myself. I'm Vernon Riley. I'm a chartered mechanical engineer, and I've spent my career working with systems and processes. So I apply engineering insights and build measurement and reporting systems that fit business objectives. Just a word about the interface in your browser. If you're watching this live, it's fairly simple. It's to the right of the main window, and there's a sidebar. One of the tabs is the chat window, and in that you can post messages to me, and I can post messages back. I'll do my best to keep up with the messages, but obviously, as you'll understand, I can't necessarily read all the messages whilst concentrating on talking to everybody else. So if you've heard all of this, please type "hearing you fine" in the chat box on the right-hand side, and with that, let's get going. Okay, so funnels. They're an easy to read stepwise view, and you could characterize them as being similar to a sales pipeline. And I wanted to show you some examples of that in order that you see just how simple they are to read, but how much information you get from them. So you've got funnels, right, and the other piece that you've got are flows, goal flows. Now that's a slightly more complex and adaptable view, and I'll talk about why it's different and the differences, but let's have a look at what a simple funnel should look like. Okay, so what I put on the screen, you'll see on the left hand side, I'm in the conversions section, and I'm in funnel visualization, and the top of the screen, above the graph on the left hand side, you'll see I've selected goal 5. So if you've got multiple goals, you can look at any one of the funnels, and here is a simple funnel, and you'll see people coming in from landingpage.php. So that's the page that they came from in order to get into the funnel. Right, and the fact it's one page is frankly a simplification. It's an example. So let's look at the funnel. Now, 486 people came into the funnel and went to fill basket 1. Now notice that's a friendly title that we've given to that page. It's not some arcane piece of geek speak. It's not the page address. It's the name that you've given to that stage of the funnel, and in this example I called it fill basket 1. So if you're asking people to put together goal funnels for you, tell them to choose friendly names that mean something to the rest of the business, because it's daft to do anything else, right? And in this case, you'll see the little red arrow to the right, that's the people who exited from the funnel, shows 0. Everybody who came in, those 486, proceeded to the second step. So they went to step 2, fill basket 2. Now at this stage, right, some did leave. 102 left according to the numbers here, and 384 went on, right? Now that, well, in percentage terms, that's good. Now, bear in mind, this is an example, right? But there's something going wrong here. Our funnel has got some deliberately missing steps. So what, and the fact that some of the exits were not simply exits from the browser, but a whole lot of them were to step 3, yeah, so to a page name that seems to mean something, gives us a clue. Well, let me put you out of your misery. Let me explain what went wrong. We started on examples.kksmarts.com, and the step 3 _ create user account is on example shop. So a different subdomain, exampleshop.kksmarts.com. And the intermediate steps that happen on the shop aren't in our funnel definition. So we've mimicked the situation that happens in a lot of purchase processes, where you start off on your own site with your shopping basket, and then you get to a point where you transfer to the payment gateway, and it collects your user details, and you fill in the credit card, and then potentially you come back, right? Now, we happen to be using Universal Analytics, which means we're less likely to trip up with the subdomain problem, but we still have the need to actually put all of the right steps in the funnel, right? So let's look at that expanded funnel definition, right? Different numbers, but now 79 came into the fill basket, confirm the basket content. We went to create user account. Now, example numbers and not large numbers of people leaving. You may argue that that's not completely realistic. It doesn't fit with your scenarios. At the moment, everything's going swimmingly, but we get to confirm purchase amount, and you'll see some people have left, right? The little red arrow has got a number beside it, 8, and it's recorded as an exit, right? So that's a potential loss to your process, right? And if you've gone to all the effort of getting people to the point that they wanted to buy your product and starting to walk through the shopping basket, and you'd be daft not to want everybody to complete it. And this kind of funnel visualization is a key tool, a really powerful way of making sure that people do walk all the way through, that there isn't some gotcha somewhere in the middle, or there isn't something else going wrong. So the funnel's starting to deliver real value. We can see where people are dropping out, where people are leaving the site. And whilst 8 might appear to be a small number, it's 10%, right? So with the next stage would be to go on and to isolate the problem, right, on the confirm purchase amount page, right? So you do that using analytics events. And we've talked about events in some of the analytics half hours, and we'll come back to that, in fact, in a future one where we'll talk about micro conversion. So this is all building together into the ways to make sure that this funnel is delivering what you want it to. Okay, so let's look at the bottom of this funnel, because we've not got to the end of it yet. Right, confirm, but we've got some levers. Then collect card details. We've got some levers. Now that, right, expected they couldn't find their card, or something went wrong, right? So you've got a situation where people are going down the funnel, some are carrying on, some are leaving, confirming, and getting to the purchase of the product. Now, excuse me, this is a straightforward funnel, right? And it ought to be the sort that's seen relatively often. But sadly, too few people get goals configured, and too few people get the funnel configured. Right? It's not that it's hard, right? It's just that people aren't doing that. Now, I've given you a full example of a simulated purchase process, right? But there are other uses. It doesn't have to be about purchase. If you were downloading a brochure, it might be a short process. It might be that you went through a form where you filled in a couple of details, and then you went to the page that you downloaded the PDF, and we've made the PDF look like a real web page, right? It could be that you've got to sign up, and you've got an upsell. So you signed up for a newsletter, or you signed up for some resource, and at the point that you said thank you, you've got an upsell. So you've got a funnel which you can look at the numbers of people who go all the way through the funnel and take the upsell, and the numbers who say, no, that's fine, I'm happy with what I got as a result of signing up. And you can work on the percentages, and you can look at what's happening and work to improve the situation to benefit your business. You could have multi-page application forms, right? And that's very similar, actually, to the holiday availability check. Let me explain what I mean. A multi-page application form. Think of a mortgage application or an application for a financial product. They typically have got lots and lots of fields that need to be filled in, right? And you would proceed stepwise through this, and you would want to see that people have made their way from page 1 to page 2 to page 3. It's ideally adapted to a goal funnel. You want to find out whether page 3 is where all the difficult questions are, or whatever the answer is. So you get a view as to what people are doing, and you begin to see what's actually happening with your population. Now, the holiday availability check is a similar one. You'll have seen many sites where you book holiday cottages or hotel rooms or something like that, and the first stage is for the visitors to go on to a system where they work out whether the room is available for the week that they're interested in, right? And they may go backwards and forwards at that point, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But they'll, having worked out whether it's available, they can then go on to book the room, right? So what it boils down to is any sequence of pages, and I'll say real pages or things that you've told Google Analytics are pages because you want to measure a complete process, right, can be put together into a goal and into a funnel. And back to the slide that a couple of minutes earlier, and therefore you can show what is going on and the numbers that are completing it and the numbers who are leaving. So a very powerful way of getting a clear piece of feedback on the stuff that is going on that affects your business. Now, there are some traps. One is the issue of cross domains. Now, we set things up so that all of the pages in our example, whilst they were on multiple subdomains, we were on examples.kksmarts and example shop, were on one Google Analytics property, right? And that was useful for this scenario, but there is a gotcha here, which is that if you put multiple subdomains on one property, you can have a situation where the home pages on both subdomains get added together. So you want some help to sort that out correctly to make sure that you're not looking at the results of two subdomains on top of one another. That really doesn't help. Right? Then we have to arrange, and this is where you get your technical support, your developers, to arrange that the code across the transition from one domain reflects the fact that there's one domain that sends, if you like, sends the cookie. All right, that's probably the simplest way of putting it. One sends the cookie, and another receives. You have a receiving domain that receives the cookie, right? And this role may change from page to page, right? So you want to know that you've got your cross-domain configuration right? You set up the configuration of the pages in the funnel, right? You start with the / that comes after your domain address. So take the example here. If it's examples.kksmarts.com/step3, you name your page /step3 and use the begins with, right, option when naming the pages in your funnel, right? Don't include the domain, right? That is something you might assume you want to do, but Google's not actually looking for that, right? Okay. Do, when you're configuring it, make use of, it's not a big red button, it probably ought to be. There is now a verification link. It saves an enormous amount of time. It was a very useful addition when Google made it 2 or 3 years ago. It allows you to verify that the goals have been set up and they've been set up correctly, and it tells you how many goal completions you would have seen, so how many people would have got through to the end of your funnel over the previous 7 days, right? So that's really useful. The other trap for the unwary is iframes. Now, without going into the technical details, the If you're relying on things that are on a third-party site and using iframes, or even things on your own site and using iframes, the normal coding means that Google Analytics doesn't see them. So a lot of e-commerce sites, third-party shopping carts, the availability checkers, the holiday stuff that I was talking about, the forms that you fill in that come from wherever are often put in iframes. So you need some help to get your iframes working. So because you can get a situation where the Google Analytics appears to be working, but it isn't transferring the cookied information correctly. So when you look at the people who are going through the bit that's the, let's say it's the shopping cart on the iframe, you don't see where the initial source of those people. So your marketing channels, of which you have a number, you don't see which of them are actually sending the people who purchase, right? And that's not good. That doesn't help you as you seek to work out which bit of marketing to enhance and which bit to slacken off from. Okay, so talked a lot about goal funnels. Let's just talk in the remaining minutes about some of the other things that you can get if you set up goals. You can get something called the reverse goal path. Really useful. You see, a lot of what we've talked about is setting up the funnel that we thought would exist. It's the funnel that's being designed. It's the route that we think people are going to follow. But of course, we can't compel them to go that way. It may be they've come in from somewhere else. And the reverse goal path says, well, look, if they ended up here, where did they start from? Right? And by doing that, you can discover all sorts of things. So you take the objective and you uncover things like new customers and prospect segments. So you find people who've come into places in your website that you didn't expect them to want to buy the particular product or service you're looking at. So you may be running a different marketing campaign appealing to a different audience, and they're following this link and going and buying this particular product and service. And that may be a complete new marketing opportunity for you. You just hadn't thought that that set of people were interested in product X or service Y, right? It may be that you've got an unexpected upsell or cross-sell opportunity, right? It may be that you've got new entry points and opportunities, right? So you've got a route to the offer that hadn't been anticipated, right? It might be an insight into a better configuration of Google Analytics or something quite fundamental in marketing terms. It might indicate that a particular partner or advertising source was helping in a way that hadn't been anticipated, right? Now, of course, this looking backwards, right, isn't restricted to the final page. You can look at this at each stage of the funnel. Now, user flow may be the report that you want to use rather than configuring multiple goals, but looking backwards is a really powerful technique, right, in using Google Analytics. The other thing that before we move to goal flow, right, that I want to look at is misconfigurations, right? Because your reverse goal path may show you where you've misconfigured the funnel, even though you got people to complete. Okay? Right. So, the reverse, the goal path, right? The goal path is a more complex report because it is less about the designed path through the website. Right, it includes the unanticipated routes, and you'll see that in this case, although the slide's got the wrong title on, for which my apologies, that after people leave the booking host page, right, there's a circular loop that leads them back to the landing page. So you see loops, and you see places where people go off in some other direction. So this is taking the definition but looking at the real flow. So you capture this unanticipated traffic and you wind up finding out what the real visitors are actually doing, which can be very useful indeed. right? So the goal flow includes all of the paths around the website that involve the pages that have been defined in the goal funnel, including the loopbacks, and that may give extra insights. And you'll see you can also up on the left hand side you can apply segmentation. There's a list of segments that you can apply. So you can apply the source. So you can say, well, show me what this is for the people who came from Facebook, the people who came from Google, or from some other source, right? Which is good if you've put the effort into making sure that you've tracked the sources. So there are other things like what browser, what device they're using, all sorts of things, and they may have different patterns. So it's a very powerful report, right? But I would say don't worry about that until later. Get the goal funnel working first. That's your first priority. If you get the goal funnel working, right, then you can worry about the goal flow. You'll be miles ahead of most people in just getting the goal funnel to work. Okay, so where are we now? Well, we've talked about the three main reports, the funnel visualization, the reverse goal path, and the goal flow. So to summarize, funnels are the simple, effective view, the view that mimics the sales pipeline, and you get to see how many people are making it their way through to the final page. You may, on occasions, want to take a slightly flexible view as to what the final page is, if you have real IT issues, but a fairly simplistic, they come in here and they go down to the bottom, right? And if they exit, then they've exited and they've lost interest. And that'll give you an idea as to where the holes are in your processes, right? Which, as I say, can be anything, although a lot of people will be interested in this from an e-commerce point of view. So there's funnels, there's the reverse path, what you didn't anticipate, what you haven't seen yet, right? And then there's goal flow, which is a full, more complex view, right? So that's the that's the material that I wanted to put for you in front of you this afternoon, right? If you want to type questions into the chat box now, do go ahead, right? If there are people live and you would like to give me some feedback, I'm going to put an address in and ask you to go to this address and just fill in the feedback form, because that would help me know what we're doing that works well for you and what you'd like more of, or what you'd like less of, perhaps, you know, all sorts of things like that. So, right, let me just do that. Right, and my details, right, are on the next slide. I'd like to know what didn't make sense, anything more that you want, and if you want to contact me, you'll see my LinkedIn profile there. You can email me at kksmarts.com. There's the blog. This post will be posted in probably the early part of next week. It's Friday afternoon. And the website as well. So let me just see whether we've got any questions. It looks like everybody is holding their counsel at the moment. So I'm going to say thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you this afternoon. I'll look forward to inviting you to another Analytics Half Hour in a fortnight's time. So thanks very much and have a good Easter. Bye for now.